You're listening to UGFM. It's coming up to 9 minutes past 1, and I've got ZELIE Bullen on the line. ZELIE, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Now, you've had quite an interesting life so far, haven't you?
I have had an interesting life. I'm very grateful for the life that I've had. I mean, there's been a lot of heartache and there's been some really tough days, but I've also had a whole lot of beautiful people in my life, beautiful experiences, fantastic travel. I'm very lucky, really.
Yeah. When I finished your book, and your last sentence was, "When you feel good, you attract good," and that
is it. I didn't realise it's the last sentence.
Look, it just I just thought, what a way to end the book. It was just, I just thought perfect. It was just so perfect.
I just think it's true. When you have positive energy around you, and when you can be in a shopping centre and you see people laughing and you can't help but look over there. You look over and think, what are they laughing at? I wonder what's going on there. And it's just really good energy coming off you, attracts good energy back to you. And I think I was in college one time and somebody had said to me, it's funny how we all just want to be around you. It's like, and I was really flattered. I was like, wow, thanks. Why is that? And I don't know, you're always happy. You're always happy and bubbly. And I've had people say that to me at different times in my life, and I think it's one of the nicest compliments that you could pay somebody.
Yeah, definitely. And yet you've certainly had your challenges in life, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. There's been some really dark days, like I said, some days that I just didn't want to be around anymore. And I as you know from reading the book, I lost my sister when I was 19 in a car accident. Hideous time in our lives, and 2 years later lost my father, and then within a very short amount of time lost the man that I was planning on marrying. So by the time that came around, by the time Graham, my partner, had died in an accident, I was already quite experienced in grief and the grieving process, and I knew that I didn't want to be around anymore. I knew that I didn't want to be going through it. I certainly didn't trust anyone or anything anymore. I felt that, there was days that I was scared that if I got close to anybody else, they might die. Just all sorts of things go through your head in those young adolescent years anyway. But I think when you're experiencing extreme grief, compounded one on the other like that, it was enough to certainly not be able to hold my head up by myself anymore. And fortunately, I had an amazing support team around me, family and friends, beautiful people that were in my life. And, they got me through to a point where I actually realised that I cared about people again, because when you're in a suicidal state, this is why I feel very strongly about not judging people who are suffering from depression or very difficult days, because when you're in that state, you can be so completely submersed in it that you really don't have the capacity to care that much for anybody else, not even caring for yourself anymore. So I feel really strongly about trying not to judge anybody who's going through a difficult time. And even though, yes, there are times when all of us need a bit of slapping and say, come on, think about others and think about how you're affecting other people by the way you're acting. I think when you're in a really deep, dark place, to be critical of someone is really not helpful at all. They need support and they need love and time. Time is such a massive a factor, really, in getting through dark days. If you don't give yourself time to experience the emotions that are trying to come out, and you just try and push them all down and try and move on and get going too soon, I think that grief pockets itself in different places in your body, and I think I believe it can be a contributor to causing disease and ill health, and I think that it's really important to let yourself have time when you need to be healing.
Yeah, definitely. It's very well said as well. And I think that, everyone has a right to react to what happens in their life any way they want, even if it makes other people feel uncomfortable.
Well, yes. I've never been one for getting embarrassed terribly much at all. So, that's been on my side as well. And when Julie, our sister was killed, I just used to cry openly and hysterically whenever it came. And I honestly didn't feel self-conscious about it. It wouldn't matter if I was on public transport or if I was amongst strangers or close friends or in the middle of the night, or, you know, I just let it come whenever it came, and I felt so much anguish that I just didn't feel self-conscious, and it was a big learning curve for me, I think, because I saw people around that time, other people who were very close to her, and they really tried to be brave, and they tried to push on, and they tried to find reasons, and they tried to justify the situation. And I think that it took them many more years to come to terms with the hideousness of the tragedy that it affected us all than what it did me. I mean, I still don't feel at peace with the situation. I don't think I ever will. I think I will always feel like, it's not fair, she left too early, you know, why did that happen? But I know as far as, what is the word? I guess it's a peacefulness, but not total peace, but justifying maybe. Don't really know what I'm trying to say. I know that the fact that I've let myself grieve when I've wanted, when it's come up, has been a healthy thing compared to what I've seen around me.
I noticed throughout reading the book that you seem to have always had this ability to just express yourself.
Yes.
And not be afraid to, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I might have been born with that. I'm not sure. I mean, people have said to me for a long time, you know, how did you get where you are in your career? And I'd really like to be like you, which, you know, is a big thing to say to somebody, but particularly younger people have said that to me. I want to aim to be like you in my state of mind when I get to your age. And how do you do that? And I think, you know, one of the common things I've said to people is you've got to find confidence in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself and trust yourself a little bit in your heart. I think people put restrictions on themselves because of largely of society and influences around them. So, you know, it starts when we're young and we're told by people who are older than us that we really need to get an education and we really need to think about our career and we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And later in life, we need to be prepared for when we get married. And you know, there's already, you know, even though I don't think that's bad advice, I think that there's restrictions getting enforced upon us from a very young age so that by the time we're old enough to be making money ourselves or be studying, thinking about what we're going to do to make money, I think that we've started to think too much about the planning and not so much about what it is that makes us happy. You know, so we sort of, I believe that adolescents particularly get a little bit lost because there's not enough focus on what is it that makes you smile, what makes you feel warm, what do you want to be good at, you know. And fortunately, I've seen the schooling system change somewhat over the years, in my opinion anyway. It's not so rigid, and a lot of schools do try and let children develop in areas that they have natural ability and have instant attraction to, instead of going, well, you know, it's really got to be maths and science, or it's really got to be sport because your father was a sportsman, or that sort of thing. You know, I think that is something that is more widely accepted now, but I still think that there are a lot of restrictions put on particularly young people about what they should be doing and what they should be aiming for, and we're not taught to trust our heart. You know, I've made a beautiful career out of the fact that I love animals, and it's as simple and as basic as that. You know, yes, I've been through some really difficult times, and in those times I've turned to animals because they make me happy, and I've just gone and cuddled my dog, or I've gone and jumped on my horse, or, you know, trimmed her feet, or whatever, just being around them, even cleaned the paddock out, you know, picking manure out, anything just to be around them because you're in the moment, and there's not preconceived thought there, and there's no judgment from animals. And so I didn't mean to become an animal trainer and have this life that I have. I thought as a young teenager that I was going to be a veterinarian because I also thought that I needed a career where I could make money and make a living, and it was with animals, so surely it would only be something like a vet. You know, I grew up in Darlington in Perth, and, you know, beautiful little village type of out-of-town area, and I would never have thought about working in Hollywood or in some of the biggest feature films being made, and yet I ended up there simply because I did what I loved to do enough to be good at it.
Yeah, yep. And I think it's just, you know, you were always making choices that would make you feel better. And
That's right.
and that was always towards animals as well, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, when I was young, before we'd had death around us, I experienced some things that were also very difficult. And you know, I think that we were exposed to some difficult situations through no fault necessarily of my parents, just the way it was. And you know, as I said, I would think, what do I want to do? Oh, that's right, my friend's got that little pet rabbit. I want to go and cuddle that rabbit. And honestly, I would mimic the animals, and just by being around them, I got good at learning their body language and learning what they liked and where they liked to be touched, or what expression they would give, or what noise they made when they liked something or they wanted something. In fact, while I'm speaking to you, I have my son's Labrador is demanding attention, and she's leaning on me and pawing me so much. I'm like, okay, enough now. I'm trying to concentrate on my conversation. It's all just sort of part of being around them, is learning what they like and what makes them feel safe. And that's a very big part of being a good animal trainer, is being compassionate and understanding to their emotional requirements, as well as, you know, okay, well, now we're going to learn to jump through a hoop, or to, you know, stand up and walk on your back legs, or anything like that you can make fun to them. You also, very, very importantly, need to understand what they want and what they like. And, of course, all animals are different, like people are.
Yeah. I suppose when you're working on movie sets with animals, it isn't always just a matter of getting them to do what you want, is it?
No. We're like, I see us as their guardians. You know, we get to a movie set and the director has some action in mind, or maybe it can be as simple as chooks fluffing around in the background on a set. You know, they want like a farmyard sort of look, so they'll scatter a couple of chooks around, and anything. It can be anything. It can be really high, intense, trained behaviour, or it can be background action, but whatever it is, it's important for us to be the protector of the animal. You know, we're employed as animal experts, and the director and the film crew have their own jobs, and it's not necessarily their job to make sure that everything is going smoothly with the animals. And the director might want, you know, yet another take, or maybe the camera's jammed, or the lighting wasn't right, or it began to rain right through the middle of the take, or whatever. And so we're required to try the scene again. And if we, as the animal's guardians, you know, pipe up and say, well, actually, you know, this horse has had enough. It's been an intense galloping sequence. He needs a rest. Or in liberty animal cases, it can be really high concentration levels that they need. So they need to be focused on us all of the time, so that we can work them. Do you know what working at liberty is? When you work them free and away from you.
Oh, okay.
So the trainer can be out of the shot, so behind camera. And the animal's really got to focus and concentrate. So instead of just standing there and eating grass, if it's a grass-eating animal, it's really got to concentrate on what the trainer's trying to get through to it, communicate. And if that level of concentration, or if a physical demand is too much, then we need to be experienced enough and educated enough to say we need to change to another animal, or we just need to break in filming for the moment, or we're going to need to come back to this because it is our job to protect the animal.
Right, yeah, yep. Is that difficult sometimes?
It can be difficult, but not so much. Well, no, it can still be difficult now under a really high-pressure situation.
Yep.
But as you get more experience and more confident, and, you know, there's been very few times, in all honesty, that people have been annoyed or angered even at the fact that the animals need a break or a rest, or we need to rotate to another animal. I mean, people normally have an element of compassion, even if they don't have the understanding for the animal. So, you know, if they trust us. But if we're in a really high-pressure situation, there might be 300 horses working in background, and we've got the horse working in foreground, and there might be 500 extras, you know, people, and they're just about to call roll, and you think, oh my gosh, we're not going to get this shot, or this is going to be, so, you know, that sort of high pressure I'm talking about. So, you know, but again, we need to be brave enough to say, I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut to another horse or another animal, whatever it is that we're working at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of challenges working on Warhorse, didn't you?
Yes, we did have a lot of challenges. It was a difficult movie, most certainly, to work on, but we had a fantastic team. There was myself and my husband and Bobby Lovegren and Bill Lawrence, 2 horse trainers from America who I've learnt a lot of. And together, the 4 of us got the Liberty sequences worked out, horses galloping free through bombs, and quite a lot of up-close and personal stuff with the actors that can be difficult to get, capture on film, the horses nuzzling. And then there was also a fantastic Spanish team who trained a lot of the horses, and there was a great team from England that we worked with. So there was a lot of people in that production, and I feel a bit embarrassed sometimes because people say, "Oh, are you the person that trained the horse from Warhorse?" I'm like, well, I did work on that film, and I'm really proud to have been a part of it, but there were a lot of us, and I feel awful if people think that I need to take all the credit because, although that I was certainly the first Liberty person to be contacted for, we created a really good working team, and we got some difficult stuff done that we're all very proud of, but there was a lot of people involved.
Yeah, and you've worked on quite a few films, haven't you? The Mask of Zorro, and was it the Thin Red Line, and and for particularly some of those the war ones, and where there's a lot of action, quite often it's my mum's terrible. She watches some of those movies. Oh, the animals, the poor animals.
Oh, it can be so heartbreaking. Warhorse is one of the most emotional movies I've ever worked on. And like you're saying, the war films, and it can be so sad because you're setting up for a shot and you're looking at these people dressed and acting maimed and wounded or dead people everywhere, dead animals, and you're thinking, gosh, we are reenacting part of history. This is just so sad. And then, for any of you out there that have seen Warhorse, obviously it's a real emotional roller coaster.
Oh,
and I cried. Yeah, I cried I don't know how many times in the making of the movie. I knew I was going to be an absolute basket case when we actually watched the finished product, which I was. But, I think Steven Spielberg, of course, is a genius, and he is very, very good at balancing the scales, and he's very good at taking you down to the lows on the journey and then lifting you right up in the highs. And, I'm very, very honoured to have worked with him. Lovely, lovely man.
Yeah. What's next for you?
Well, at the moment we're working with another beautiful family. They're the Ashton family in Perth, and it's a circus family. I married into a circus name, of course. So in the last 11 years I've been in and out of our involvement with circus, and have really, really enjoyed it. Some beautiful people who really care for their animals. And we've trained 3 new circus acts, and we're currently working with them in Perth. So my husband Craig and I do a pre-show demonstration where we talk about training methods and we talk about the way our animals are educated and the bond, the very, very important bond that we must create in order to have open communication with them. And then we present some acts in the show. And once Joseph Ashton has taken over the acts to the point where he's comfortable and all the horses are comfortable and we know that we're leaving behind a happy situation, then we would quite like to go home for a little while and spend some time on our own animals because we haven't had that opportunity for a little time.
Yeah.
But in our line of business, we really never know what's next. There's a couple of films that are speaking to us about up-and-coming projects, but we always say never and never never count your chickens until the flights are booked, because the film industry is very, very fickle and things come up very fast and they also go very fast. So this year alone, I think there's been six TV and film productions that have asked us to join them, and all of them have fallen over. So they've all not actually eventuated. So we don't know. We never really know what's next, and we really like life like that.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's really adventurous.
Well, most of your life has been like that, particularly as far as your career has gone, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I'm used to it. And my biggest concern these days, of course, is our 6-year-old son, Colt.
Yeah.
And, as he grows older and forms friendships in different places, then it may get more difficult. At the moment, he still loves this way of life, and we just went home to Queensland for 2 weeks to do the book launch in Queensland, and for the new book that my sister's just written on my life. And Colt had a fantastic time there, and I was starting to think, oh my gosh, is this going to be hard to leave? But when 2 days before we were due to come back to the circus, he said, all right, great, so we're going to the circus. And we both had a couple of tears about leaving behind the animals we're leaving behind, but we're also really excited to get back to our 2 dogs that we had on the show, and Colt's own pet pony, who's just given birth to a miniature mule.
Oh.
There's always a lot of fun in our lives. So, but it will be just a learning curve for us, I think. We're going to have to reassess every year that comes along and just see how Colt's going and what he wants with his little world too, instead of just dragging him around with what we want.
Yeah. I loved what your sister wrote at the end of the book too, her acknowledgements and, writing your life story.
I'm so proud of my sister. I've always been proud of her, but I think she's done an incredible job at capturing my personality, and every single person that I know who has read the book, and now there's, several hundred of them, say the same thing. They say that, we heard the voice all the way through, and we laughed and we cried, and I think Frida has done an amazing story of telling it through my eyes, but writing in first person, but she's also done a very good job with the editors of telling the story of my life, because there are things that I just assumed she knew. And in fact, when we were carrying out interviews in the early days, in the first few months of trying to get this book written, I was surprised when I would see her starting to sniffle and then eventually go into a full sob at things that I was saying. I'd be just gazing off into the hills where we live, and I'd be reciting something from my memory, and I'd be telling the story. And all of a sudden, Frida's like a big blubbering mess, and I would, what's happened? I didn't know that. And I would think, how could you not know that? Of course you knew that. But when you take the time to really get to know someone that you adore, it's, you put all of those hours into the details and the finer points. It's really quite a moving process. And I think she did a really beautiful job of the book. And as I said, I'm very proud of her. And Alan and Unwin, it was the first book she's written, and they signed her up before it was released to go straight on to write another book. So they clearly are very happy with her as well in the process of the second book.
Yeah, I can, I definitely agree that having spoken with you now, that she's written the book as though you're speaking.
Yeah. I mean,
you sound exactly the same as the feeling that I get from the book when I read it. Yeah.
Wow, that's really great. I mean, that's a talent to be able to do that, because of course, when you think about it, she has a lot of the same. She was there through a lot of the memories. She has a lot of the same history as I do, and so, especially in the early years, and I would be talking about someone that I thought was great. I remember that time, and he always used to carry me on his shoulders, and Frida was like, I hated that guy.
Yeah.
And I would think, really? So
it's still very two different perspectives, of course, isn't it? Because there's two different lives still,
Absolutely, and yet she put absolutely no of her influence in the book at all. It was completely, my hearsay and my story, and I
it looks like you've written it.
Yeah, she's just so clever.
Yeah. I would imagine this is added to your relationship, the two
Definitely.
of you. Yeah.
We were already very close, Frida and I, but in this last year, it took 12 months to write the book, and in this last year, we've spent more hours together, just her and I, than ever before. And that was really interesting because, by the way, I had no idea what was involved in writing a biography. And when I was approached to write one, no, thanks, I'm not really interested in that. And no, I just want to be out in the paddock and playing with the animals. And this really lovely man, Richard Walsh from Alan and Unwin, he talked me into it, saying that he felt I was in a position to be inspiring others and to help others, possibly through difficult days. So, I listened to what he had to say, and I also told him I had concerns about not really wanting to have my story told by someone else and sort of losing control, which is why Frida ended up writing it.
Right,
because he said, who do you trust that has a way for writing? Oh, well, my sister. And so, that was the beginning of that. But, as I said, Frida and I have spent many hours together in our lives, but we have busy lives. We both have busy lives, and there's often other people around, and there's distractions, and the phone's ringing, and there's, all sorts of things are always coming up. We've got to make an appointment, we've got to get to study, we've got to get to work, but it was day in, day out, intensive sessions with her. And as I said, I had no idea. I really thought once I'd given her all of these stories down on tape, she used to tape our conversations, our interviews, and hours at a time we would go, and she used to tape them. And once she had a lot of the information, I really thought I was off the hook, and it was just down to her and, hey, yeah, good luck with that, friend. And I had no idea how involved it would be and how emotional it would be and how it would bring to a head, basically, what I've lived through. And the mass amount of people who have helped me, who have influenced me, who have inspired me, who I've learnt from, so it's been really amazing. And as Frida said, we both highly recommend it, to write a biography on someone in your family who you really love and you really care about. What a fantastic thing to do. Get all that time together and all of that information that you share. It's a really, really nice thing to do.
Yeah. No, well, as you said, your sister's done an absolutely wonderful job, and she really has captured you, and has done it beautifully. And
I'm going to tell her you said that. She'll be so pleased. She's getting lots of lovely feedback, but I'm sure she'll. Yeah,
no, she really has, and it really is though. It's just your voice that comes through. So and I think for a sister to do that, to not put, because it would be at times for some people it might have been very easy to put your own slant on it as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Especially in times that we didn't necessarily agree. If I had said something, I had a lot less to do with our father than what Frida did, and she was closer to him than I was, and I had a lot of things to say about him that she didn't necessarily agree with, and yet everything that's written in the book is stuff that I said, it's stuff that I felt and experiences that I had, and nothing of what she wanted, thought, felt, or whatever came through. And I just think, well, that's a very honourable thing to do, and a skill as well, because it would be difficult. It'd be difficult to put yourself in the background and just focus on someone else's story when you are already so involved. And having said that too, I think that the fact that she wrote it, she, particularly around family issues and older issues from in younger days, I think that she was able to put so much emotion in because she knows me very well, she knows the way I speak very well, but she also feels a lot of the emotion as if it were her, so even where we disagree and she's sitting there listening to me and watching, and as I said, she would end up in tears often, and just because she was so completely moved by something that I was saying. And so, if I had been speaking to an author who hadn't lived through a lot of those issues with me, a lot of those memories, I really can't really imagine how they could have put in what she has.
Yeah, no, it's, and just actually, the fact that you brought your father up, I remember when I was reading about your relationship with him, and I think at one point you said, you just really weren't that interested in him. Just not nothing hateful or angry just a matter of fact. And I actually thought that was really refreshing.
A few people have pointed out that too. I mean, there's been some characters in my life who are not terribly desirable, not necessarily Dad, I'm just saying characters along the way, and people who have lived through some of these experiences with me, and people who were there at the times have complimented, saying what a great job that they thought Frida had done at not harming anybody else. And that was very important to me. I don't live this life thinking nasty things about other people or wanting any distress for anybody else. So it was really important to be able to tell the story without making other people look bad or, insult other people. Or it was difficult not to offend people, but it was I'm sure that there will be people who don't necessarily agree with everything I've said or whatever, but, you know, as Frida kept reminding me, this is my story, not everybody else's, and I had to keep remembering that because I don't like to cause discomfort or stress for anybody else. And I think for anyone considering writing a biography, it's a really important thing to remember that this is, you know, our story. It's people are buying the book because they want to know what happened to us or they want to know what we lived through. So, yeah, that's been interesting.
Well, I don't really think that for someone like yourself telling your story that there's much room for you to make other people feel bad because of the fact, well, because you don't dwell on things. You're not someone that dwells too long on things. You keep looking for something to make you feel better, and so you just keep moving on. So there's really no room for you to sort of hold on to any sort of negative feelings about somebody else, and that comes through the fact that, you know, okay, that person's just the way they are. They're not that interested in me. I'm moving on. Right.
Well, I'm so touched that you say that because that is a large part of my personality. You know, I don't want to dwell on anything negative, and I certainly don't want to focus on it. You know, I'd rather spend my life thinking about things that I want and dreaming about things that I want so that I can make them reality, because that's a big part of my philosophy on life, really. I think that you get what you think about, and where you invest energy and time is where you're going to get growth. So, you know, back to what I was saying at the beginning of this conversation, that young people, I think, they sort of get not misled. It's just that they not encouraged. I think a lot of people are not encouraged to listen to themselves and to listen to what they like. You know, they're sort of directed down roads that they should be directed down, or, you know, whatever it is. And as I said, I think that it's important to have goals, and I think that it's important to desire things and to go after things. And yes, it's not all roses. You know, there are some times that you'll be studying and you're in the middle of a degree or school and you'll be thinking, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I would much rather be out with my friends or riding my horse. But, you know, if you can see a means to the end and there's a reason, there's a purpose. But I think it just needs to be balanced. I think that if you sit and study endlessly day after day after day and you don't give yourself any credit and you don't give yourself any fun or any relief, then, you know, you sort of lock yourself into a negative process, really, of just thinking that life is about difficulty. You know, life is about doing these things and not getting reward and, you know, hoping for reward one day. And I think that teaches people that, you know, that saying that happiness is the journey, not the destination. I think that when people are too focused on their destination, because, of course, the destination changes as you grow anyway.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, so, okay, well, great, I'll be happy when I finish my degree, but once I finish my degree, well, then I'll be happy once I actually get a job. I get my job, but I won't be happy until I get the wage that I really hoped to get by doing this degree in the first place. So it's just like an endless process if that's how you look at life. Whereas if you look at life going, how cool that I've got this opportunity to study at this really great school or great institution, and I'm following my heart because I really want to be a doctor or an artist or whatever it is. That's what I really want. I'm so lucky that my parents understand that and they're giving me the opportunity. So if you're just always thinking about how great it is where you are now, then you can't help but end up being happy.
Perfectly said.
Yeah, and I just think that somewhere along the line in education that is missed too often.
Yeah, it is, definitely, yeah.
I mean, I wish the way you look at things was a topic in school, you know, because it's so important. And I say to Cole all the time when he doesn't want to go to school, or if he doesn't want to pick up his pony's poo, or if he just, you know, really, really like to go and play Lego or something instead. And I go, come on, you've got to pick up pony's poo. While you're out there, you're thinking what you're going to build when you get back to the Lego game, you know. And you can be thinking, oh, my pony's going to be all clean and healthy and happy because she doesn't have to lie in poo tonight, or, you know, whatever it is. Like if we teach them young to think about finding fun and happiness in everything we do, I think that can become a way of life and a lifestyle rather than, oh, everything's hard. You know, I hear people say to their kids, life's not easy, kid. And I think, why would you say that?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, you know, it's not rocket science. Life life isn't necessarily easy all the time, but it sure can be fun.
Yeah, that's
Why
right.
wouldn't you say, life's fun, kids? You know, like,
Yep.
life's fun. Let's look on the bright side. Let's do this. Let's do that. Why would you just sort of enforce negativity? I don't get that. I really struggle with that sort of education, and I really wish that children were taught to believe in themselves, and they were taught that they can do what they want to do instead of, well, you know, you can't do that because I don't have the money, or, well, we don't live in that country, mate, you're not going to get that, or, you know, there's just so many things that can happen. I've had incredible things happen, and I've thought, how on earth did that happen? You know, where did that opportunity just come from? And it's just amazing, and there's things that I've always thought about or wished for, and then all of a sudden there they are.
Yeah.
And I think, how did that happen? Oh my gosh, how fun. And it's taught me that, like I said, that what you think about is what you get. And I say it to Cole all the time, and the other day he told me he really, really wanted this new Nerf gun. And he's already got a couple of Nerf guns. And I was saying, well, you know, you've got Nerf guns, mate. And he said, Mum, I'm just going to think about that Nerf gun because I know I'm going to get it eventually if I think about it. And I was like, oh, I've created a monster. And I came in the other day, and he's got a note up on the wall, and it's the particular Nerf gun written up. And so that when he wakes up in the morning, he sees that. Then I'm like, you know what, good luck to him. He can save up and he can get it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I think it's really powerful stuff to be taught young.
Yeah, definitely.
That you need to invest time and energy into what you want.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to live your life, and I think that you don't necessarily say that specifically in your book, but it certainly comes through.
No,
I mean, I know you say it at the end, but I mean, it just comes throughout your whole life, even the difficult times that you have this certain way of looking at life and attracting things into your life, and you know,
that's really lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that, because you know it is the way I like to live, and I think that I largely live like that. But then, you know, there are times when I think it's not that I'm always happy and there's never doubt.
No, of course not. But
you know, I mean, there are times like with Colt's schooling right now, I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't be working so many hours. Maybe because he homeschools at the moment on the circus that we're at.
Yep.
But he does it in a lovely friend's place with her children, and he really wants to be doing it with me. And I think, well, you know, maybe so there's doubt, but I think doubt is part of reassessing as you go along, you know. And and you know, if everything was just intensely happy all of the time, you would forget what intensely happy was.
Yes, that's right. And life is always about new things and wanting more and having new desires and new dreams.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, that's just how we expand in life. I mean, it's, Well, I hope I get to speak with you again. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the program. I think this is one of the longest interviews I've ever done.
Oh, well, it's been a real pleasure to speak with you as well, and I'm really, really grateful for you even wanting to speak to me. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that's great. Congratulations on the book, and to your sister as well, Frida. And
I'll tell her.
I have
sorry to interrupt you, but the title "Love, Sweat and Tears" came about by me thanking Frida. At the end of we still hadn't had a title. We had all these ideas, and I didn't really like any of them. And I said to Frida, you know, a big long email about how much I love her and how much, you know, she's done herself and myself justice in the words that she's put down and all this sort of stuff. And I said, thank you for all of your love, sweat and tears. And she went, perfect.
That's it.
That's the title. And I think it's come across really well.
Yeah, no, it has. ZELIE, thanks very, very much for your time.
You're
welcome. Keep enjoying life. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. You too.
Great. And please, pass on congratulations to your sister as well.
I most certainly will.
That's ZELIE Bullen there, and the book was written by her sister, Frida Marnie Nichols, and the book is titled Love, Sweat and Tears. You're listening to UGFM.